We live in a world where optics and social media weigh heavy on people's minds because, as human beings, we value and want external recognition. So much so that the desire for validation from other people has become an impulse. But you're not looking for it from your parents, close friends, or family. Instead, the opinions of hundreds or thousands of strangers have come to matter. That's the world that we live in today. And relying on external validation to feel good about who you are or your situation is treading on dangerous ground. Because self worth, notice the word self, that comes from within. And in the long run, self validation or affirming your own feelings, accomplishments, and identity will offer you a more stable and enduring foundation for confidence and true happiness. I mean, let's look at even how women's bodies are validated. One minute it's about being slim thick, the other minute it's about being skinny. And look at the hairstyles. One minute it's lemonade braids and whatnot, the next minute it's boho braids. And I've seen women change their hair to go with these trends, whether or not the style fits them. You wouldn't be swaying with the wind if you were anchored in what styles actually fit you, whether it's a trend or not. So when you seek validation from others, you're placing your sense of self-worth in the hands of people who may or may not understand you, or who may offer praise with little sincerity because, you have on something or you style yourself according to a trend. And this dependent on external approval, especially when it comes to our young ladies, only serves to create women with fragile self-esteem. And so it's easy to be shaken by criticism, neglect, or rejection. In contrast, someone who self-validates has her own internal compass. Self-validation encourages you to make decisions based on your own needs. When you learn to validate yourself, you free yourself from the constant cycle of seeking external approval, and instead you create a sense of self-assurance that is much harder to undermine. In essence, it's about learning to trust and value your own judgment, which will enable you to navigate life with confidence and emotional stability. And the way our society is set up now, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking validation from social media, even AI, or from mainstream media. Whether it's an AI roast of your Instagram page, which I saw people doing, they asked AI to critique their IG pages, or scrolling in general. Sometimes we lean towards critiquing ourselves and our own lives, which is harmful in the long run. So I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why self-validation and not anything external should be the anchor in how you see yourself. The first thing is that external validation is fleeting and it's also very unpredictable. AI-driven comments or social media feedback are often based on algorithms or superficial metrics, likes, comments, shares, that don't reflect the complexity or the depth of who you are as a person. One day, an algorithm might offer a compliment or an influencer might give you a thumbs up, but the next day, the feedback could be negative or absent altogether. So this inconsistency makes external validation unreliable. You can't control how others or algorithms respond to you, and your sense of self-worth shouldn't become tied to a roller coaster of external factors. And I think that's why they say, in terms of the younger generation today, many people are treading on dangerous territory just because they're growing up in a different way where likes are so important. So whether it's IG likes, YouTube views, a plaque at work, whatever it may be, That shouldn't be a focus. In contrast, self-validation means cultivating a stable internal source of self-esteem that isn't dependent on anyone else's opinion, or it isn't dependent on a digital feedback loop. Second thing is, media often presents an unrealistic standard. And I say that as someone who gets complimented when I'm out. But I also know when I go out, what I see on Instagram and what I see in real life are two different things. Social media and mainstream media are notorious for creating idealized versions of reality. Everything is filtered, it's airbrushed, it's curated to perfection. So whether it's the flawless influencer photos or celebrity lifestyle, these images are often, I think, promote unrealistic standards that leave many people feeling inadequate. When you seek validation from these sources, you're measuring yourself against a distorted version of success and beauty that for many people are unattainable and in many ways aren't authentic, because the people who you see who are airbrushed or filtered, they don't even look like that. Self-validation, however, empowers you to set your own standards based on your true values and goals, rather than conforming to someone else's fabricated version of perfection. So by focusing on internal validation, you can appreciate your individuality and define your own worth free from the external comparisons. And that also means leaning into your own beauty. And the third thing is, nature and nurture comes into play, and so does context. So how anybody outside of yourself views you depends on their own life experiences. They are experiencing you from their own vantage point. I have a Caribbean origin, and I was talking to a friend this week who's from Africa, and she was saying like how in our culture, thick is in, and even in African American culture in general in the US. However, if you know you're naturally thin, you should lead into this. I think especially with strangers, strangers lack the nuanced understanding of your life and your background. And similarly, media often distills complex human experiences into sound bites. We're so aware of viral moments. But if you self-validate, right, you're creating your own narrative without reducing yourself or your life to what other people think. So free yourself from the whims of external approval and begin to value yourself. You know those boy groups from the 90s? We all have a phase where we've liked a boy group. And these members, there are members who are more noticed than others. They look good, they sound good. But let a few years go by and people tend to talk about one or two of the members or their favorite. There was something distinctive about this one person, even in a lineup of other talented people. So whether it's talent, your personality, or your beauty, be confident in you fully. Appreciate who you are, and you'll stand out in people's minds. Because ladies, in the end, it's not about being noticed, it's about being remembered. Thank you for watching today's video. Hit the subscribe button to join this growing community, and go make it a good day. Until the next video.